You might think that when you finally go silent, walk away and cut off all contact with a narcissist, that's the end of the story. That they'll move on, replace you, and carry on like nothing ever happened. But here's the truth most people don't realize. When you escape their grip, it's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of their silent collapse. Narcissists don't fall apart with visible tears or dramatic breakdowns. Their unraveling is subtle, internal, and excruciatingly private. They don't mourn the loss of love. What they lose when you leave isn't a relationship, it's control. It's the steady supply that kept their inflated ego afloat. And what breaks them more than anger, more than begging, more than a heated confrontation, is one thing: your silence. When you stop reacting, when you stop checking, when you stop even mentioning their name. No contact isn't just blocking a number or deleting social media. It's a powerful, wordless declaration. You no longer have access to me. It's a clean severing of the emotional cord they once fed on. It's stepping out of the web of manipulation, gaslighting, and false hope they spun so tightly around you. And when you do that, when you stop responding entirely, you're not just walking away, you're dismantling the very structure they depend on to feel like they matter. They don't know who they are without someone to control. They don't know how to function without someone reacting to their chaos. And in that emptiness, the truth starts to sink in. I've lost the one person who gave me power without condition. In this video, you'll be guided through the hidden, internal stages of a narcissist's collapse after you cut contact. From denial to rage to quiet desperation, you'll see why your silence, not your anger, is what they fear the most. Stay with us until the end, because the more you understand their unraveling, the stronger your boundaries will become. And if you're on the path of escaping narcissistic abuse, or fighting to hold your ground in no contact, subscribe now. This isn't about blame. It's about awakening and never again letting yourself be pulled back into a game you were born to walk away from. Stage 1. Denial. They don't believe you've really left. The moment you vanish from their reach, no replies, no texts, no explanations. They don't accept the truth that you've left for good. Instead, the narcissist's first reaction is denial. A deep, distorted kind of denial. She's just playing games. He's testing me. He'll be back. He always comes back. They can't comprehend the idea of someone leaving and never returning. Because in the narcissist's internal world, every time you forgave them, every time you came back after pain, was proof that they had successfully conditioned you. To them, love was never about connection, it was about control, and you had been under that control long enough for them to believe escape was impossible. So they carry on as if nothing happened. They laugh, post beautiful photos, show off how great their life is now, but this isn't stability. It's a mask to cover a truth they're terrified to face. They don't panic or chase you immediately because in their mind you still belong to them. They assume you'll soften, that your silence is just another power play, another emotional game. They've grown used to you being the one who reaches out, who explains, who fights for resolution, and so they bet that history will repeat itself. But then days pass, you still don't come back. No late-night texts, no cryptic posts, no trace that you're still emotionally engaged. And this is when the internal storm begins. They won't say it out loud, but they feel it. This silence is different. It's not impulsive, it's terrifyingly certain. The denial begins to crack, but they keep patching it. With weak reassurances, she's just seeing how far she can go. He just needs space. They might test the waters, send a neutral message hoping to see if you're still there, and when you don't respond, they retreat again, whispering to themselves, no one really cuts ties forever. But deep inside, something they've never truly faced before is starting to emerge. Real loss of control. Because there's nothing left that pulls you back. No promises, no guilt, no memories, no illusions. And during this stage of denial, what scares them most isn't that you're gone, it's that you're gone without leaving a way back. You're not angry, you're not asking for closure, you're not demanding recognition. You didn't even give them a final scene, it disappeared, as if they never had any real power in your life to begin with, and that is what suffocates them. Not because they loved you, but because for the first time they're forced to look at themselves with no one left to reflect them. Stage 2. They feel the loss of power. After staying in denial long enough, something far more terrifying begins to creep into the narcissist's mind, the feeling of losing power. No more self-soothing whispers like, "she'll be back," or "he's just angry." No more comforting illusions that you're just testing them. At this point, the truth starts knocking. Maybe this time it's real. Maybe they actually left, and they're not coming back. For a normal person, being left behind may trigger sadness or regret, but for a narcissist, it means the collapse of a power structure they believed was unshakable. In their relationship with you, it wasn't about loving deeply, it was about maintaining control. Every message you sent, every tear you cried, every angry paragraph you wrote, all were signals that they still held the strings. But now everything is silent. You're not talking, not texting, not accusing, not reminiscing. The silence is unlike all the other times. It's not strategic, it's not temporary, it's real. And that truth starts to unravel them, because you're not just silent, you're unresponsive. And when you don't react, they cease to exist the way they once did. Narcissists don't have a stable sense of self. They live by reflecting themselves through your emotions. Without someone to provoke, to guilt, to manipulate, they don't know who they are. And when you, the one who once cried, begged, and kept the thread alive, now withdraw completely from their universe, they lose the mirror they relied on to feel real. This is when their inner stability starts to crack, not because of heartbreak, but because they've lost control. And to a narcissist, losing control is losing identity. They might try to test the waters, hope you're okay, or just thinking about you. But when you don't respond, it doesn't register. In their world, silence isn't a boundary, it's a challenge. And this unsettles them more than you know. At this stage, they may do anything to try to disrupt your peace. A cryptic social media post, a photo with someone new, a message through mutual friends. Not because they miss you, but because they need to check. Do they still affect you? If there's no reaction, the sense of powerlessness becomes undeniable, and they realize what they thought they owned has vanished in silence. What terrifies them isn't that you forgot, but that you're no longer under their control. And when you're no longer in their grasp, they don't know what role to play anymore. No longer the villain, no longer the victim. With no one to fuel the drama, no one to play off of, they're left alone with the emptiness of who they really are. Stage 3. They revive old roles, from victim to false awakening. After the panic of losing power starts to settle in, the narcissist returns to a strategy they've mastered, reviving their old roles. But this time, they know the usual tricks. Rage, threats, emotional explosions no longer work. You didn't react. You stayed silent. So they shift. This time they step into something softer, something more subtle, the role of the victim, or worse, the awakened soul. They start by painting themselves as the one who's been hurt, not by you, but by life, by childhood trauma, by forces beyond their control. They rewrite the story to be softer, more tragic, more relatable. Maybe it's a vague social media post like "sometimes we lose the best things before we know how to hold them," or a quiet message, "I understand why you left. I really am trying to change." It's all designed with one goal: to awaken your empathy. They know you feel deeply, you tried to understand them, you hoped they'd grow, and now they're targeting that part of you that once believed in their potential. They don't shout. They whisper. They don't demand. They confess. But behind every word is one motive: to pull you back in. If the victim act doesn't work, they evolve. Now they're spiritually awakened. They talk about therapy, about healing, about reading books, meditating, confronting their inner demons. They say the very words you once longed to hear, even using the exact language you once used. But here's what you must remember. Real change never comes with a strategy to regain influence. People who genuinely heal don't need someone to return just to validate their new self. But for the narcissist, this false awakening is nothing more than a polished new mask, designed to lure you back into their orbit. And if you still don't respond, they shift again. Now you're the ungrateful one, the cold one, the person who refuses to give them a second chance. They rewrite the narrative so they become the one who tried, and you become the one who walked away from someone who was finally changing. It's all a performance, but more refined now. No screaming, no direct accusations, just layered comments, carefully crafted posts, and quiet tones that seem humble but serve the same old purpose: to regain control over you. But this time, you don't react, you don't explain, you don't correct the story, and that's when they feel it. Their script no longer has an audience. Stage 4. When they use someone new to regain a sense of control, when all their roles fail to pull you back, when the victim, the changed person, and the remorseful soul no longer shake you, the narcissist reaches for one of their most desperate yet familiar weapons, the replacement. They find someone new, often quickly, sometimes loudly. They may flaunt the new relationship, post affectionate photos, declare that they've never felt this way before. But don't be fooled. This isn't love, it's panic wearing perfume. When you walked away in silence, you took something they couldn't fabricate, the reflection of their power in your eyes. You were the one who made them feel desirable, central, validated. And when you disappeared, they didn't just lose you, they lost the role they played through you. So now they need someone, anyone, to fill that psychological gap as fast as possible. The new person may be nothing like you. That doesn't matter. They're not looking for compatibility, they're looking for psychological footing, and if they can use that person to trigger jealousy, pain, or doubt in you, that's an even bigger win. They know you'll see it, they want you to see it, they want you to think, are they happier now? Was I really the problem? Have they truly changed for someone else? That's the goal, to draw you back into the narrative, even if only in your mind. But the truth is this: the new person isn't proof that they've moved on. It's proof that they can't sit alone with their emptiness. So they dress it up. They play the part again, and eventually the new partner will sense something's off. They'll feel the control, the manipulation, the patterns. And when that person stops reacting the way the narcissist needs them to, another cycle begins. You, however, are different. You're awake now, and because they can no longer use you the way they used to, they use someone new not to move on, but to try and resurrect the version of you that once believed in them, hoped for them, fought for them. But this time you don't feel jealousy. You don't compare. You don't wonder. You don't ache. And that, more than anything, disorients them, because deep down they know they haven't replaced you, they've simply lost the ability to manipulate you. Stage 5. Even with someone new, they silently keep watching your life. You see them with someone new. They post photos, interact publicly, put on a show of happiness. Everything seems to be moving forward, but behind those curated smiles lies a truth they'll never admit. They're still watching you. Closely, silently, obsessively, To a narcissist, you were never just the ex. You were once their source, the one who reacted, submitted, absorbed their performance, and your absence, your quiet, resolute disappearance, didn't just take you away, it erased their role in the script they depended on. They may have replaced you in name, in photos, in relationship status, but your emotional imprint, it haunts them, because they no longer control it. That's why they continue to watch, checking your social media, asking mutual friends, gathering crumbs of your life from the shadows. Why do they do it? Because you're the loose thread they never managed to tie up. You're the one outcome they didn't predict. You didn't cry, beg, rage, or shatter their silence, and that leaves you floating outside their control, undefined, uncontained. With the new person, they're still rewriting the same old script. But you've stepped off stage completely, and that terrifies them, because they have no idea what you're thinking. If you post something happy, they wonder if you're faking. If you stay silent, they assume you're watching them. If you succeed, they compare. If you're kind to someone new, they spiral because they thought only they could hold that place in your heart. They don't watch because they love you. They watch because they need to believe you're still affected by them. They can't stand the thought that you're truly happy without them suffering, without them apologizing, without them owning their role in your pain. And the most suffocating truth for them? That you let go without needing to announce it. No final text, no goodbye, no carefully staged closure. Just silence and a life moving forward. And that's why they keep watching. Because deep down, they still hope one day you'll turn back, look their way, respond, so they can prove they still matter in your world. But you don't. And in that silence, without saying a single word, you deliver the most powerful message of all. You've left the game, and you're never going back. Stage 6, when they begin to lose control over the new supply. At first, everything seems smooth. The new partner smiles brightly. The narcissist appears happy, enjoying a healthy relationship. They're eager to showcase. But behind that perfect image, a storm is brewing. Because the narcissist is beginning to realize they can't control this new person the way they once controlled you. With you, they had time to emotionally condition you. They knew your vulnerability. They knew when to apologize and when to withhold affection. But this new person, they haven't learned the rules of the game. The new supply hasn't been emotionally trained. They aren't yet familiar with the erratic moods, the shifting expectations, the subtle guilt trips, and that makes the narcissist uncomfortable, frustrated, and increasingly desperate. They begin replaying old tactics, a subtle complaint, an emotional test, a silent treatment, just to see if the new person will panic. But the new partner, unaware of the script, responds like a normal, emotionally stable person. They question things, they push back, they don't fall in line. And for the narcissist, this is intolerable. They begin to lose the rhythm of control. Each time they try a manipulation tactic, it falls flat. Silent treatments don't inspire fear. Passive-aggressive remarks don't result in over-apologizing. They begin to realize the old tricks aren't working, and that realization makes them restless. This is when the mask begins to slip. The charm fades. The understanding, evolved version they were pretending to be starts showing signs of irritability, control, and blame. The new partner starts noticing something's off. They begin to feel confusion, suffocation. And if they're self-aware, they'll soon realize this relationship isn't as healthy as it looked. The more the narcissist loses control, the more they reveal their true nature. And when the new person starts pulling back, setting boundaries, asking questions, the narcissist begins spiraling, just like they did with you. But this time, there's no safe fallback. You've already stepped away. The new partner is waking up, and the one who believed they'd always be the center of every story, are now being pushed out of both worlds. The truth is, the new person never helped them heal. They were simply a placeholder, a distraction to avoid facing the emptiness they carry inside. And when that illusion begins to crumble, the narcissist doesn't just lose a partner, they lose the last illusion that they're still in control of anyone. Stage 7. They will try to re-enter your life the moment they see an opening. Don't be fooled by the image of them moving on or settling down with someone new. For a narcissist, no one ever truly replaces the person they once successfully controlled. And if that person, you, walked away without giving them the chance to react, they never really let you go. No matter how many relationships they go through, how many fresh starts they stage, you remain a potential supply, just temporarily out of reach. They don't view you as the past, they view you as an unfinished role, a performance they never got to wrap up on their terms. And because of that, if there's even the slightest crack in the door, a chance encounter, a neutral message, a flicker on social media, they'll come back immediately. They might return gently, "It's been a while, just wanted to see how you've been. I miss those peaceful times with you." Or they may be more subtle, liking an old photo, re-adding you on social platforms, checking in through mutual friends. It's all a test. They don't care about your life. They care whether you still react to them. One reply, one emoji, one curious glance, and to them that's a green light. They see it as permission to slide back in. But make no mistake, they're not coming back out of love. They're coming back to reclaim the power they lost. For a narcissist, someone who once belonged to their control orbit, slipping away silently, is a personal failure they can't tolerate. And what do narcissists hate most? Not being hated, being forgotten. They may say, "I've changed. I've learned my lesson." But beneath those words is one motive: to restore the old dynamic. Where you were vulnerable, forgiving, and easy to sway, their return isn't humble. It's driven by the twisted survival instinct of an ego that cannot stand being irrelevant. Even if their life is falling apart, even if they've been discarded by their new supply, you become the place they run back to, not for love, but to balance the scales of power. But this time, you're different. You're no longer waiting for them to wake up. You no longer flinch at their vague messages. You no longer ache when they pretend to be remorseful. You're not a character anymore. You've stepped off the stage, and you don't need an audience. Stage 8. You walk away for good, and a quiet, miraculous rebirth begins. They came back, just as you expected, gently, indirectly, perhaps even disguised as someone who's changed. They weren't looking for promises, just a flicker of doubt, a small crack in your resolve. But you didn't waver. You didn't respond. You weren't confused, because this time you weren't just silent. You had truly let go, not out of exhaustion, but because you finally understood the power of a clean break. You realized that each return cost you a piece of your soul. Each forgiveness chipped away at your dignity, and now you no longer needed that cycle to define who you are. This wasn't impulsive. It was a conscious awakening, a step away from a story that was never going to end, a story where love was conditional on your weakness and strength was punished. You no longer waited for their awakening, because you had awakened yourself. And that's when the rebirth begins, not in a loud transformation, not in a single triumphant moment, but slowly, in each peaceful breath, each boundary you hold without guilt, each time you whisper to yourself, "I don't belong there anymore, and I don't need them to feel whole." This rebirth doesn't come from validation. It rises from within, when you no longer need permission to be who you are. You stop chasing recognition. You stop explaining yourself. You stop hoping they'll finally see your worth. And the miracle is this: the moment you stop seeking their recognition, you start finding yourself. You begin again, not to prove anything, but because you deserve a life that doesn't require you to shrink, to beg, or to betray yourself for peace. They may still watch. They may call you cold, say you've changed, but you know the truth. You're not being cruel. You're finally free. This freedom isn't loud. It isn't showy, but it shines so brightly even they can't deny it. That person is out of reach now. And you've come home to yourself at last, whole, grounded, and no longer bound by a past that once defined you. It's 9. Your freedom is what finally breaks them. You no longer react. No more anger. No more explanations. No more desire to be understood. You don't have to prove that you've healed, because your calm speaks louder than anything else. And that is what truly breaks the narcissist. When you were silent, they clung to the idea that you were still hurting. When you were angry, they believed you still cared. But when you are completely free, living, thriving, glowing, with no emotional tether left between you and them, they no longer know where to place you in their world. You become something they can't control, can't manipulate, can't rewrite into their narrative. You are the exception. And that wounds them deeply. Because narcissists cannot stand the reality that someone once fully trapped in their cycle could break free and come out stronger on the other side. So they may keep performing, pretend you never mattered, tell the new supply that it's all in the past, but deep down the obsession remains, because they know you are living proof of what they dread the most, that their power has limits. And that pain, it's the pain of becoming invisible. You don't hate them. You're not seeking revenge. You're not using them as a reason to stay broken. You're living without needing to see them fall in order to rise. And to a narcissist, that's the deepest failure. Not to be remembered as a wound, but to be forgotten as irrelevant. Their collapse isn't dramatic. It's not sudden. It's a slow, burning internal implosion as the emptiness they've always avoided becomes unbearable. Now that there's no one left to mirror back their illusion, they're finally left alone with themselves. And no one left to blame. You don't need to see them crumble to know you've won. You don't need to hear them apologize to know you chose right. You just need one thing: to never look back, never respond, never surrender your freedom. Because in that silence, you didn't just reclaim your life, you forced them to face the one thing they fear most: themselves. If you've made it this far, chances are you were once manipulated, lied to. You once loved someone who made you question your instincts, your memories, your worth. Maybe you forgave hundreds of times. Maybe you waited for change that never came. Maybe you loved a version of them that never truly existed. But the most important part of your story is not what happened to you, it's that you stood up. You don't need applause for that. You don't need to retell every scar. Because true healing doesn't come from reliving the pain. It comes from no longer letting that pain dictate your future. The narcissist never expected you to leave awake. They expected you to leave angry, bitter, broken, so they'd still be at the center of your emotions. But you didn't give them that. You walked away in stillness, in power, in silence. And that was the victory. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need their collapse to rise. You didn't need closure or a final scene. You only needed to hold your silence, because that silence became the loudest declaration of all. I don't belong to that world anymore. True freedom doesn't come when they change. It comes when you stop waiting for them to. It comes when you realize you don't need to be understood to heal. You don't need an apology to move forward. You don't need to be remembered to prove you loved deeply. This journey wasn't easy. It forced you to face yourself, to challenge your own beliefs, to sit with the discomfort of letting go, to lose a version of yourself you once protected. And in that void, you rebuilt. You're no longer the one who was broken, no longer the one seeking love in submission, no longer the one who only felt seen through someone else's eyes. Now you are whole, you are free, and you no longer need permission to live fully. If someone asks you, what did you do to get revenge? You can smile and say, I lived, and I live without needing them anymore.